Voge 800 Rally. Bridgestone AX41s. Big stinky muddy puddle. Playtime. I rode the Voge 900 last year and I was really impressed with it. We actually bought it here and gave it some proper abuse, which isn't what that bike was invented for. That was much more of an adventure bike, much more of an adventure touring bike than an off-roady bike. But we've come back with this, which is the 800 Rally, DS800 X Rally, give it its full title. Different engine, very different bike, and it is making light work of an Enduro World. This is their new tabletop. Look at that! That is one awesome tabletop. This bike I've been quite impressed by today. First things first, you need to know it is £7,000 plus on-road charges, but £7,000. That is good value. Got heated grips, heated seat, fully adjustable KYB suspension, and a load of Bluetoothy built-in camera-y gadgets and things that, yeah, I'm not really into, but it's cool, it's got them. But I really wasn't ready for just how capable it was off-road. At that price, I expected it to feel like it was going to break every 5 minutes, honestly, and I think a lot of other people do. But now it's 213 kilos, it's a twin-cylinder 90 odd horsepower adventure bike, so it's not your fully extreme off-road adventure bike, but it has proven itself incredibly capable. There's a limit, so this sort of second and third gear, not too gnarly trails, kind of riding with a fun trail pace, what I would call a fun trail pace. I'm not attacking the corners, I'm not charging the straights, just sort of cruising around and enjoying it. It's absolutely fantastic. As soon as you hook up another gear and start working the throttle hard, that's where you find its limit. When you hit the hole you haven't seen, you get a good kick, little head shake. Steering damper does stop the tank slapper becoming fully scary, but that's kind of where it runs out. It starts to hit the big hills and run out of travel, the fork. I've had a play with it, and you can improve its ability to take a big hit, but then you lose some of the sensitivity when you're doing smaller stuff. So there's always a compromise to be made. If you set it up just to land massive jumps, it's absolutely horrible on the loose rocks and trails. So I've sort of found myself a middly setting where it works pretty well on everything, and if you land nicely, it copes brilliantly. If you land like a gibbon, it makes you pay for it. But if you're looking for an adventure bike that you can do some good miles on, some big trips, you've got the engine and the size to do some longer journeys easily, but you want to take the hardest trails you can find, you want to tackle the roughest stuff, this bike's really good. It's well balanced. There's some things I could pick holes in. The clutch lever's not my favourite. It's okay, it looks a bit cheap and naff, but I'm not really bothered by that. It's more the fact that the lever feels quite a big fat lever, and I've not found it the nicest to use today. But apart from that, it's a great trail bike. If you're looking to go and do some adventure rallies and race, it's a cheap starting place. You'll probably want to spend some money on the suspension, upgrade it a bit more. Outer Gully Experience MX section. We'll go this way. I happen to know the gully is where enduro bikes go to get stuck, and I am not on an enduro bike. All in all, this Voge is a super capable off-road bike. There's a limit to how fast and hard you can ride it off-road. Well, there's not, but the suspension definitely gets unhappier once you really push on, but until that point, absolute weapon. Love it. There's an old recipe for selling more adventure bikes. You take a bike, big high screen and a flat seat, and write the word rally on the side, and people will come in their millions, all believing that this year they are going to be the next Mark Coma. Maybe that's a bit cynical of me, but this is the latest bike in a long line of parallel twin middleweight bikes to take the rally moniker, the rally styling, and try and bring a bit more spice and excitement to the adventure bike world. Now, we rode the 900 last year and I was really impressed. I took it off-road because it's kind of what we do, and abused the living daylights out of it, I think it's fair to say. And that bike wasn't really aimed at being a hardcore off-road adventure bike. It did really well. This one says rally on it, and the whole pretense of it is more aggression, more off-road ability. It's actually a different engine this time. It's another parallel twin from a Lonsini type company in China, but same format. 200 and something mil travel, 213 kilos, and rather than going for the road adventure bikey world, this one's aimed squarely at your kind of keen off-road adventure bike rider. The elephant in the room, obviously, it's aimed at the Yamaha Tenere. That's why it kind of looks at a Yamaha Tenere, except this one costs 7 grand. For 7 grand, you get adjustable KYB suspension, you get switchable traction control, switchable ABS, heated seat, front and rear, always nice, and a weird camera-y thing that takes selfies of flies as they hit in. I don't know, there's a camera on it, I didn't play with it. And a bunch of other stuff on the dash that, again, if you're touring and traveling, maybe the Bluetooth connectivity is what you're into. Personally, I just want a speedo and I'll use my phone for GPS. Maybe I need to move with the times, but that's where I'm at. What I was really interested in today was how did this bike handle some proper off-road abuse? And when we want to do that, there's one place we head to, Enduro World in Ystalyfera, South Wales. It's an enduro practice day spot. You can turn up there on a weekend, ride your enduro bike, hit all the hard trails, enjoy the kind of main flowing trail, or go off and get stuck and lost in the woods forever. It's kind of up to you. It's a fantastic place. And you kind of guarantee that whatever bike you take there, you'll find the limit of what's possible. That was the aim today. Push this thing to its absolute limit off-road and see where we got stuck. With that in mind, we've got a set of Bridgestone AX41 tyres fitted and taken the mirrors off, thrown them in the bin. Don't need to know what's behind me. Don't need to smash the mirrors every time I drop it. So evicted them. This is a pure off-road abuse test. We got to Enduro World. I started with a little bit of a play in the car park. I always like to do that to get a feel on the bike. And first impressions were good and bad, if I'm completely honest. Good, nice throttle response, nice kind of predictable fueling. On a trundle down the road, rolling on and off throttle, there's a little bit of maybe a little surge or something I found, but generally that low speed fueling was really impressive. Secondly, not a massive fan of some of the cheap levers. And I was just about to have a big moan that the clutch and brake lever looked like they came off a 1990s Honda when I remembered that this is a 7 grand bike. Expecting to have a 300 quid beautiful Magura lever perch is probably pushing our luck a little bit. So I stopped being so fussy. I would like some less slabby lever blades on there. They're great big fat road bike levers. For something aimed off-road, a thinner, more tactile lever would be nice, but I'm a fussy sod with that stuff. And finally the foot pegs as well, while we're on stuff you touch. Great when they're dry, not much grip when they're wet. Even with the rubbers taken out, they're just not really sharp enough. They're a bit too much of a smooth profile. If it was my bike, I'd file them till they were sharp, but something to bear in mind if you're going to buy one and ride it hard off-road. Other than that, initial impressions were really good. It was so well balanced. I was doing little rollbacks, spin turns. Found it really, really easy to ride at speed. Once you get past a certain point with the weight, it does feel heavy. But if you keep it in that middle zone, I was pretty impressed. There's some bikes that weigh a similar amount to this that the minute they get off balance a bit, they feel like they go straight away. This has quite a nice wide range that it works in before it feels like it's too heavy to hold up. Enough slow speed control, let's get into the trails. We start on this nice little warm-up loop at Enduro World. It's actually the kids track for enduro bikes, but if you've seen kids ride these days, you realise that doesn't mean anything. It could still be impossible for normal humans. There's a couple of nice tabletops, some rollers, some holds, some berms, and straight away I was building up really good confidence with this bike. I could steer it and put the front wheel where I wanted. I could slide it into turns on the back brake. Having the ABS and traction control easy to turn off meant I could kind of play and do what I liked. The tabletops, it was really fun, didn't kick unpredictably, and I started to think, wow, maybe it is actually a rally bike. Maybe we should enter the Dakar on one. Until I hit the first hole that I didn't spot. And then I blew through the travel, bottomed the fork, and realised that it's still a 200 mil travel adventure bike, not an enduro bike. And that's something that's important. I've heard it said a lot by pro riders racing this class of bike. You have to respect the bike. You have to remember that what you're riding is something that's still heavy, and in stock form, the suspension's not designed for flat out desert racing. It's designed to be capable off-road. The more we rode around the park, the more it became apparent that this bike was really, really capable and you could go fast enough that you then ran into the problems of suspension travel. Maybe it's a little bit soft when you ride too quick. Heartbreak hill complete. And you start having that kind of battle back and forth in your head. You're like, I want it stiffer and more preload and more compression and longer travel so I can hit these jumps harder. But then in normal trail riding, you kind of don't need any of that stuff. You need it to track the small bumps nicely, not kick off, deflect off things when you hit a rock you haven't seen, and be soft and compliant to fine grip. But on these simpler trails, this thing's absolutely brilliant. It's important to figure out what you're expecting out of an adventure bike. It may say rally on the side, and it does have a rally-y feel to it, but that's in adventure bike world. If you go and ride proper rally terrain at proper rally speeds on this, you'll have a big crash. That's it. You know, the suspension is designed to be really capable off-road travel suspension. It's not designed to hit holes at 180 kilometers an hour in the desert. It will cause you some problems in life. So as much as the rally name sounds cool, I always feel it's a little bit of a marketing trick. What this actually is a Voge DS800X brilliant trail bike, but that's not as catchy. So I think that's why they called it rally. The whole rally, not rally subject it's kind of a moot point. The point is right now, more and more people are taking their adventure bikes off-road, riding them harder off-road, and actually the number of people entering trail rally bike competitions and events is growing. So there's a room for bikes like this. But if you think of sports bike world, if someone sells a super bike, it's sold as a race replica super bike. I think your off-the-shelf BMW S1000RR is closer to a world superbike, or is able to ride more like a world superbike than this is able to ride like a proper Dakar bike. And I'm not just picking on this one, I mean kind of any of these rally spec bikes. They're incredible, but they're still adventure bikes. They've still got to do a lot of other things other than go flat out. Now, whether people want something more focused than this, I don't know. I think there's room for it, but this is definitely not a full hardcore focused off-road adventure bike. I've talked a lot there. I've waffled myself round in a big circle. I disappeared off on a little rant about what is an actual rally bike and why the name's on bikes like this. But the point is, this bike is a much more capable off-road bike than the 900 Voge we rode last year. It's able to go in some deeper ruts, some steeper sections, hit bigger holes, do bigger jumps, and cope with generally more off-road abuse. Now, in Chris's world of riding them as hard as possible on an enduro track, I found that I was good for quite a long time, especially on the slower stuff, and able to tackle like the slow technical obstacles really well. Riding the rough trails in second gear, fine, and as long as I then hopped and saw all the holes, it worked perfectly. As soon as I tried to up into third gear and start hitting some of those braking bumps and bigger rocks and stones, that's when I ran out of travel. If you're buying a middleweight adventure bike and you want to tackle some tricky terrain, push your limits, push yourself to ride some harder stuff, this bike is absolutely brilliant idea. Longevity is a big question on everyone's mind when it comes to Chinese bikes. We're currently doing a long-term abuse test on a Voge, in fact, to put, you know, many thousand miles and lots of off-road abuse to see how it holds up, because they're claiming that they're just as good as the Japanese stuff. Time will tell, but this has come straight from ABR, was abused on all the off-road trails there, had no prep, not even a wash, and we took it straight up the enduro track, and I have ridden it to the limits of its suspension all day. It's made some horrendous noises on massive landings from jumps you should never be doing on it. Nothing's dropped off, nothing stopped working. Every time I pressed the button, it fired up. Every time I turned the ABS or traction control on and off, it did what I asked it to do. It has been faultless all day in admittedly a short test, but definitely a very hard test. That for me bodes well for the longevity of this bike. Well, that was entertaining. So where does it fit? Well, I'd say we're talking somewhere between a new standard Tenere with the better suspension and probably the V-Strom. It's in that ballpark. You know, it's a very capable off-road bike. If you try and ride it really fast off-road, you will run out of ground clearance of suspension. But until that point, absolute riot to ride. At £7 it's really good value. You get heated seats, heated grips, centre stand, switchable ABS, and decent KYB adjustable suspension. For that, I think it's well worth a look. And let's face it, it does look really cool too.